using Niang and LeVert in the TV show. But I want to ask you guys this. Knowing how Hunter can now fit in with the Cavs, should they now be considered the favorite in the East? Maybe the favorite in the NBA to win the championship? Or does that crown still belong to Boston until further notice?
Can I jump in and have you answer that question? I want your thoughts on this trade. You haven't really said much. Like, I want a quick thumbnail on your thoughts, and then you answer that, and then we can too. But you tell us, does this now make them the prohibitive favorite in the East?
I did a 30-minute live stream on this right after the trade yesterday, so my thoughts are out there.
I saw that.
Jason,
for those that haven't seen it, though, I'm curious.
Yeah, but let's start with you guys, and I'll wrap it up.
Okay.
But Jason, are they the favorites in the East now, favorites to win it all, or does that crown still belong to Boston, knowing how well and how much of a need a legit 3-and-D wing like DeAndre Hunter is?
I mean, I still think Boston is probably the favorite, but that doesn't mean the Cavs can't beat them. You know, absolutely. I thought Cleveland could beat them before the move. I thought the Cavs could beat them in a 7-game series. Now, even more so. But, I mean, Boston is still the champs. They're an absolute animal with Porzingis. As you were talking, the one thing that I wrote about this morning was, you know, Mike and I were sitting there watching the Boston game together, and you've got Max Strus trying to climb a tree and Kristaps Porzingis because the way the Cavs like to switch. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Like, DeAndre Hunter fixes all of that.
Yeah.
So does it make them the favorites in the East? I have a hard time saying that just because the Celtics, the defending champs, they haven't lost anything. And they have Kristaps Porzingis now that they didn't have last year. So they're still the favorite. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ.
What did it do to the betting odds? Did it move them at all?
Oh, yeah.
They went from 9-1 to 7-1 yesterday on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Really?
Which is doesn't sound like a big jump.
Are they the second choice or the third choice?
They're the third. OKC and Boston are both ahead.
And what is Boston, who I imagine is the betting favorite?
Plus 250.
Ooh, man, yeah. I got to keep giving
as of last check.
Okay. I got to give them credit because here's, as a GM, the main job that I like to boil it down to is knowing when to hold them, when to fold them. You know, he didn't go all the way in revamping the roster. He basically just got rid of JB, brought Atkinson in, and kind of changed people's game. Then the trade deadline comes up, and you saw these moves, you know, going around the league. And then he sits here and says, okay, let me watch what these guys do against the Celtics. He watches Celtics games, and it's like, it's evident. You see it. I don't know how many times, I don't think I was on the show the next day, how many times the Celtics, they end up switching off on, and Porzingis ended up on Darius Garland or Merrill or some small guy, and he was just down there going to work. You look at Tatum, he loves to go at the smaller guards. So it's a situation where I think Kobe Altman saw that, and he could have very easily said, you know what, we got the best record, we rolling. We got the best record. We're not making no moves. We're going to let the chemistry keep going. And even after Donovan Mitchell said, who was he? He was cutting somebody off in the press conference. They said, hey, Donovan, do you think you guys need? He was like, no.
That's what you have to say. He said exactly what he should say.
And I'm thinking like, okay, well, if Donovan said it, that's what it is. But Kobe makes this deal when it was the easiest thing in the world to just sit pat. And that's the difference between people really, really going for it and being uncomfortable, and people that's just like, okay, I'm cool with the nice start, and maybe we can still progress and get to the finals. I think this was a crazy move.
And one thing, real quick before you go, what's important to understand with this thing with Boston is farther down the line than the Cavs are. The Cavs are just coming out of the gate.
Yep.
Boston has been together. Their guys are really expensive, and even if the Cavs don't get them this year, it's okay. Because you can wait them out a little bit.
Are you saying that we're entering the window and Boston is closer to leaving it?
Absolutely.
Because that's my view,
yes.
but I don't know it like you know it.
Yes, that's absolutely it. I mean, Boston's for sale right now.
Right.
And we'll see who buys them, but we've talked about this before on the show. They are staring at a payroll and tax bill this summer north of $450 million.
That's crazy.
And the Grusbecks, I think part of the reason – it's a whole other conversation why all these NBA owners are getting out of the game.
Right.
I don't think the Grusbecks have the appetite for $450 million. Now, if their sale goes through, we'll see who the new owners are. But they've got really hard decisions to make. And the Cavs will be at that point sooner than you think. But there's still time. They've got 3 to 4 years before we have to have those $450 million type discussions here. But because of where Boston's at with the cap, because of how expensive their guys are and the numbers that are coming up this summer – the Cavs, if they get them this year, great, all the better. But if they don't, it's okay. you can sort of wait Boston out because Boston is much closer, I think, to the end of having to make really hard decisions than what the Cavs are.
Oh, good. That's good for us. Mike, I'll quickly weigh in. I don't think they're the favorites in the East. I'm just a firm believer that until you beat the champ, they're the champ.
Yep.
It's like the Chiefs this year.
Yep.
The Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champs, and everybody all year long had a shovel full of dirt waiting to throw it on them.
Yep.
And here we are. They're one game away from doing the unthinkable. So when you're the champ, there's a certain gravitas that comes with that and respect that you have to pay. They proved a couple of nights ago on our floor that, yeah, they can come in here and get a win. So even if we're not the one, we're not blinking.
Yeah.
We'll just come into Cleveland. We've got 4 to win 1 because
Yeah.
we're not losing in Boston.
They got that championship relaxation
They
thing
do.
going.
They do. They know how to hit the gas. They know how to feather the brake.
As someone with ADD, Boston has ADD.
Yeah.
But
Right.
when it's deadline time
Yeah.
and it's time to produce,
Hey,
Like the
they're
Chiefs,
there.
they know where the switch is.
Yeah.
and you see that with them is Porzingis was eating, and then they got like 3 or 4 dudes that you stopped those 3, but then Derek White was hitting dagger shots.
White just came
and you was
alive.
just like, oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
couldn't even be mad. You just had to roll your eyes.
You know
like,
what it is, G? It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You feel
Yeah.
like, okay, they've made some switches and they've contained this person. So you feel like you've got them knocked down into the frame, and then here comes another one. And boom, boom. And the Cavs feel like that to me, too. So I think we are on a collision course with an Eastern Conference Finals of Boston v. Cleveland. I still believe that the Cavs will hold on to this number 1 seed, and they will have the luxury of having 4 home games.
it's important.
It is hugely important.
It's important.
I don't think they can win a series against Boston without home court. I'm not convinced they can win it with home court, but I'm pretty convinced they can't win it without home court. So I think Boston's still the favorite, but I think the gap is narrowing.
It absolutely is.
So with the seedings and the standings for the playoffs, am I correct in saying that would the Celtics have to play potentially the Knicks?
The 4.
No. As of right now, Cleveland's 1, Boston 2, New York 3, Indiana 4. So, G, you are correct. In the
Yeah, they
second
get
round,
Indiana.
if it stayed as is, and Milwaukee's just a game and a half behind Indiana, but as of today, round 2, if it went chalk, would be Cleveland, Indiana, Boston, New York.
That's
Now,
what you go.
here's my
what we
dream
want.
scenario,
That's
because
what
I
we
looked
want.
at that, but here's my dream scenario. I want the Bucks to pass the Pacers for the 4.
No, you don't.
I want the Bucks and the Celtics in the other semi. Just because I think the Bucks can take more out of the Celtics going into the East Finals.
Well, the Bucks are
than
5
Indiana
right now.
can.
The Bucks are 5. So if they pass Indiana, it's Cavs Bucks in round 2.
They have to pass the Knicks.
No, it's the
1-4-2-3.
Yeah, you want Milwaukee to jump past the Knicks.
Oh, into the 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know if they can catch. There's more games than I like there.
Yeah,
between
between
the Bucks
Milwaukee and New York,
No,
it's
yeah,
6 games.
yeah.
right now.
I think I don't like that.
I don't want any part of Milwaukee.
They're
in the
close
second
to
round.
Indiana. They were closer to Indiana.
I don't
They're a game
either.
and a half behind Indiana,
Yeah, so
but a while back
okay.
from the
So
Knicks.
if we need for the Bucks to get not just kind of hot, white hot, and move into the 3, right?
It depends. I mean, New York presents a different set of challenges, but
I mean, you're probably going to get Milwaukee in the second round anyway,
Yeah.
because I would pick Milwaukee to beat Indy, that 4-5.
You know, for some reason, and maybe I'm being naive, Milwaukee doesn't scare me.
I think Milwaukee.
I don't want no parts of Damian Lillard in the playoffs.
I think Milwaukee is very much Cavs 14-18, Cavs 17-18, where just get through the regular season, just get us there.
Yeah.
But I don't love. I think Doc is highly overrated as a coach. I would take Kenny over Doc in a series.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Coaching matchups.
That's very interesting.
Mike,
actually.
I think you're with me on that.
yeah, I would too.
How close is the gap between Boston and Cleveland right now in the East?
So I think this trade yesterday does not make Cleveland the favorite. I still think Boston would be the favorite. But it answers a lot of the questions you had about this Cavaliers team. First and foremost, they have about as good roster and lineup flexibility now, assuming health, as almost any team. If they want to play a smaller lineup, you could play DeAndre Hunter alongside Dean Wade, alongside Evan Mobley with your 2 guards, and not give up size because Dean Wade's 6'9", DeAndre Hunter 6'8", with a 7'2" wingspan, which is part of the reason Draymond Green was so good in the death lineups at the center. DeAndre Hunter is not Draymond Green defensively. Do not get that misconstrued, but he does have the length to make a life for Kristaps Porzingis or another big a lot more difficult because he just provides a higher contest.
Right.
Offensively, I said the other day he didn't fit exactly into how Kenny wants to run a system, but I also think...
In what way?
He's not a driving kicker. This season, only 24% of his drives have resulted in a pass. 76% have resulted in either a shot or a turnover.
Does that have something to do with who he's passing to?
Not necessarily passing to. I just think that's more of Atlanta's offensive style. And the more I thought about it, I kind of changed my tune on it a little bit. I don't think it's a perfect fit per se, but I think he'll benefit from playing around better offensive players. And just like he'll help Donovan and Darius by forcing defenses to be a little less hesitant to come help off him and clog the lane, he's also going to get more open looks by being the beneficiary of playing alongside Donovan, Darius, and Evan. So I think it's a symbiotic advantage for those two. And if you want to go on the flip side, let's say your advantage is size now, right? You're playing a team that only has one real big, and you want to say, you know what? We're going to use the Twin Towers. Can you imagine a lineup and the length defensively? If you want to go with the Twin Towers, you can put DeAndre Hunter at the 3, and then you can put the 2 guards out there, Donovan, Darius, or if you want to double down, play Dean Wade at the 3, put DeAndre at the 2, and Donovan at the 1, and you still have 3 shooters, but 2 7-footers.
Your length now is ridiculous.
So Kenny Atkinson now has a weapon in his arsenal that can fit not just one specific role, but like 3 or 4 different roles plug in place. And if you look at this just on paper, Kobe Altman made the decision that over the next 2 seasons we can win a championship, or we are closer to winning a championship with DeAndre Hunter and 2 buyout candidates than we would have been with Georges Niang, Caris LeVert, and whoever those second-round picks turned into.
Sure feels like
it. And I have a hard time disagreeing. As much as I like George and Caris, I have a hard time disagreeing with that assessment. I think it's a home run, a slam dunk.
Good.
Whatever kind of sports analogy you want to use, Kobe Altman did the unthinkable. Under the tax and kept his 2 best assets and got the best player in the trade. I think it's a win-win.
And the thing that we haven't talked about at all is I think it brought clarity to the rotation too. Because it was just too many guys.
Right.
You can't play 10 guys in the postseason. As much as Kenny said he was committed to it and he wanted to, I don't think that that's very realistic. But now, if DeAndre is a starting 3, and you have to think that he is, you have a clear starting 5. You have Dean Wade, Max Strus, and Ty Jerome as your 3 guys off the bench. That's your 8-man rotation in a postseason series. DeAndre can play the 4. Dean can be the backup 4 in that scenario. Evan can play the 5, so you have some versatility there. You know, Strus off the bench has the Miami Heat, the NBA Finals experience. Ty Jerome has been a revelation this year in the way that he's played. So it really, it narrows your focus. It shows you who you really are. You still have Sam Merrill if you want quick offense. I don't think Sam will hold a big role in the postseason, but he's there. If you want an extra shooter on the floor, you can throw him out there. We'll see what happens with. I mean, if you pull Ben Simmons in this as well, I don't know how big of a role he would have. But again, we went.
Isn't he like situational only at this point?
I think so. But I mean, he's 6'10".
Yeah.
So you go from a team that, man, they don't have a lot of length. They're really small in the backcourt to adding 6'8" DeAndre Hunter and 6'10" Ben Simmons if he comes here. It completely flips your identity.
Mike, I know we're going to talk about Ben Simmons in the WKYC show, but I think we should at least give a thumbnail.
I'm all in.
Okay, here. I mean, it's okay that we hit the nail in both shows. It seems like the Cavs are best positioned to get him, if for no other reason. Like, this is a team that's ready, and I feel like it'd be a good mix now. I didn't really love it last week when we talked about it, but with this trade and where they sit now and the fact that they're under the tax and everything looks good there, are we the front runners to get him in your mind?
According to Windy, he's meeting with the Cavs, the Rockets, and the Clippers this weekend. So those are the 3 teams that he's already lined up and he will meet. If he wants the best basketball situation for him, I truly believe Cleveland is the best basketball situation for Ben Simmons.
Jay, do you agree with that? G?
Yeah.
It depends what he wants. Does he want to be in LA?
Yeah, that's another thing.
I
don't know. Yeah, if he wants to win, I think it's here.
There is for sure mutual interest between Ben and the Cavs.
Yeah,
the Cavs have had their eye on him. They've been connected to him for years, and I think in a low pressure role where they don't ask a lot of him. They can minimize his weaknesses and maximize his strengths. I think you make him a 4 or 5, a non-shooting big in this. He's not a guard anymore, at least not on this team. He's a guy who sets screens, rolls to the rim. He's a good passer, really good passer at that spot on a pick and roll. He can defend. And, historically, realistically, buyout guys don't play a very large role.
Right.
They just don't. There's a reason. Like, they don't have any trade value.
Yeah, there's a reason they're available.
Yeah, there's a reason they don't have any trade value. Kevin Love helped Miami a couple years ago as a buyout guy. Everyone was all excited when Darren Williams came here back in the day as a buyout guy. He didn't really hold much of a role. But, if it's a very specific need that you need to fill for short bursts, short minutes, whatever, he's a great versatile option to throw in there. I don't know where his interests lie. If he wants to come to a place where he's going to have no pressure, where he's wanted, because he's wanted here, I've talked about this before. He doesn't have the best reputation around the league.
I worry about that.
And I'll go back to, I think I talked about this on the show before, when the Cavs traded for JR and they shipped Dion out and they brought JR in. I was talking to somebody with the Cavs who said, it's okay to have one shithead on the roster, but you can't have 2.
That's interesting.
And
don't give them someone to commiserate with.
Yeah. So, and I think that right now where their culture is, where their locker room is, they don't have any shitheads in the locker room now.
At all.
It's a really good locker room.
And you'd like to think that sometimes when a player comes in with a bit of a chip or a bad reputation, if there's no culture in the locker room, I don't trust bringing a bad seed in.
Yeah.
But when you're surrounded by all good seeds, it's more likely that he's going to have to convert to them and become a good seed.
Yeah,
because you're not going to disrupt what they've got going with all of this momentum and inertia.
And
I don't think
that was sort of the thing with JR. He had a bad reputation when he came here.
He did,
and the feeling was LeBron basically told them, "I got him. Like bring him in. I got him." And if you have someone with a dominant personality over top of him like that, you could keep him in line.
Is that Donovan on this roster?
I think it's Donovan on this roster. He's not quite the alpha that LeBron was.
Right.
But I think that, Donovan has set that type of culture.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I think Ben and JR are 2 totally different personalities. So I don't know that you need someone with a thumb over Ben the way that they sort of did with JR. But I think it's an apt comparison.
I think it would be a brilliant move. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh my goodness, Ben Simmons." You hear a lot about what he used to do. You hear about him with the Brooklyn Nets and the 76ers, and all that's been documented. Here's what I'll say. The reason why. So if you get any talking points about this, because people just hear what they hear and see what they see from the past, think about it in this way. Ben Simmons already has a boatload of money. He already has that. Ben Simmons has been to a lot of places where there's major cities. He's been in major markets, Philadelphia. He was in Brooklyn. He's had all of those things already for himself. At some point in time, like J.R. Smith, even knuckleheads want to win. Even guys that don't necessarily may have had some problems in the locker room or issues, they want to win. And so when you look at it and he had an opportunity, if he wants to keep partying and go to L.A., that's cool. But at some point in time, how much does he, value his career? If he wants to change his career and trajectory of his career and stay in the NBA a little bit longer, you got an opportunity right here with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're not asking you to shoot the ball. We're not asking you to be a focal part of the offense. We're asking you to give us a few minutes off the bench when you're playing against the twos, the backups. Can you get a rebound and can you push the pace? Can you find and fill the lane and kick to an open shooter? Hey, if they're gonna sag off and you roll to the basket, can you make a layup? We're asking him to be 6'10" and athletic in small spurts, almost as a very specific niche role in terms of what the Cavs are looking for.
Quickly, because I know we want to go in series. It's all about matchups individually and collectively.
Yep.
There are a couple of examples that come to mind for me. One was baseball, when the Red Sox found themselves down 3-0 to the New York Yankees. Late in Game 4, they needed a runner in scoring position, and they insert Dave Roberts. If you're looking at the roster going into that series, you're like, no, not a factor. He is not going to change anyone's life. He swipes a bag. He scores the run. They come back and win Game 4. They win Game 5, they win Game 6, they win Game 7, and they complete the unthinkable. Then when you think of the Cavs series against Golden State.
I know what you're going to say. Go
There
ahead.
were moments where guys you didn't expect were going to make a difference. Kevin Love played 12 seconds of defense in that entire series.
Dante Jones, game 6.
Jones. So it's like when you get into those series, I can envision a situation in the Boston series where it's a game 7 and we need a particular skill set. It's like a golfer that has 13 clubs. I can pick this club for this situation. I don't want to use a 3-iron if I need a hybrid. Well, now you just have another club in the bag that you might be able to insert at that perfect exact moment, and he makes the single play that we know he can make, and it turns the tide in a series or in a decisive game 7. That's why I would like to have him here. And I'm with you. I don't think one bad seed can disrupt that culture. And if the Cavs see that it starts to, you just
move on.
You move on.
You're not invested in them.